Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, another entry here based on one of your past suggestions. I'm having a lot of fun with this go around, so even though I've gone past my 5 videos, I'm going to go ahead and probably do another 5 here for you, and then that way we can continue on forward, see what other suggestions are there. This one was one of the past ones from over 2 years ago, if you can believe it. So again, I do go that far back when it comes to these cryptids and monster suggestions. Very interesting thing, another cryptid found in the Philippines. Some of the other cryptids in the past that I've talked about have also been there, so it seems like there's a lot of very fascinating cryptids within those areas. And this one has to do with something I love too when it comes to finding countermeasures, very specific countermeasures to ensure that this cryptid does not harm you. It has to do with this very unique looking creature right off the bat. It's called the Tikbalang, but it goes by several other different names too, either the Tikbalan or the Tikbalang. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the other information tied to this very unique creature. So what is this Tikbalang? Well, again, it's a creature of sorts, a cryptid that's found there in the Philippines, has been there for a long, long time, so much so that it's part of their folklore. And if you wanted to know exactly where this creature lives, you have to go specifically into the mountains and the forest of the Philippines. Whenever you go to those areas, apparently you are entering its realm. And then I'll mention again in a few minutes some of the ways to countermeasure and ensure that you are not, let's say, being attacked by this creature. It's generally described as being something that is tall, bony, humanoid shaped, and then also seems to have very, very, very long limbs. So much so that these limbs are considered disproportionate, much longer than, let's say, you would imagine your average humanoid would have. So much so that when it's, let's say, sits down on the ground, its legs essentially point upwards, or its knees so high that they rise above its own head. So imagine something like that, like in essence a creature having so long legs or so long arms that they just simply fold onto each other, and in some cases go even taller than the creature itself. Its most distinct creature though seems to be its head, because its head is most commonly associated with a horse, as are its feet. I guess it just depends sometimes though on the variations of this creature, because apparently it can do other types of I guess representations of itself, but in essence it seems to be most commonly associated with a horse. And then where its origins come from, there's the idea there in the Philippines that it was apparently some kind of aborted fetus somewhere, I guess back then, who knows, it was an aborted fetus that was sent back to Earth, and ever since then it's just remained in limbo here on Earth as what you see now with regards to its horse-like humanoid bony features. So as far as this creature and its habitat, again, it's found in the forest and the mountains of the Philippines. When you go there though, you're apparently entering its territory, and the whole purpose of this creature, it doesn't necessarily like harm or is pretty dangerous to humans up front, at least, but when you think about it, its main purpose is to play tricks on people, so much so that it wants to make sure that these travelers, anyone that goes into its realm, gets hopelessly lost. It's in essence, it's something where it leads it. I don't know exactly how it leads these tourists or these people around, but it leads them on pathways that they think they're going somewhere, but after a good while, they find out that they're actually going back to the very place that they started. Almost like one of those bizarre things that you see within movies, or in this case, I remember, like, for example, the Ocarina of Time game, that beautiful, beautiful game, when you were in the foresty area, how sometimes you would go into a wrong path, and then suddenly you would be back to where you started, and it would get so, so frustrating. Same concept here. This creature apparently loves doing that, loves leading people astray, in some cases loves scaring them astray as well, and then that way they just just get hopelessly lost. Again, it doesn't seem so dangerous up front, but when you think about it, imagine you're in a forest and you're just there, just walking around, just peaceful, minding your own business, and then you start realizing that after a while, it's like, oh, did I see that tree again? And then you start realizing that it's the same tree after you take different turns, and then yet again when you do other turns, it's still, you see that very same tree after a good while, and after several hours you're wondering what's going on. That's when panic starts coming in, and then that's when you'll realize that you're hopelessly lost, that you're never going to be able to get out of it. Pretty scary when you go through those specific steps and you think about it. Now, as far as those countermeasures I was mentioning earlier, in order to ensure that this Tikbalang doesn't do anything like that to you, they're pretty easy to do. You just got to be mindful of these. Apparently, if you wear your shirt inside out, it's supposed to confuse this Tikbalang so much that it doesn't do anything to you. I'm not exactly sure how an inside-out shirt does that, but apparently that's one of the countermeasures. Another one, which makes more sense, is before you go into the forest, or I guess after you're in the forest, is to ask permission right out loud. Is it okay, Tikbalang, for me to pass through your forest? Or something along the lines of stating, I'm just passing through your forest, I mean you no harm. I'm not here to do anything to ridicule, something along those lines. And then that way the Tikbalang is supposed to recognize that you are almost respecting it, and it allows you to go through without it in turn making sure that you get lost. And yet another way to ensure that you don't have this Tikbalang doing its tricks on you is essentially try to go in but be as quiet as possible, not produce too much noise, in other words. This is yet another measure of sorts that seems to be respectful to this Tikbalang, so that way you're not offending it or you're not disturbing it, because who knows, the Tikbalang may be nearby, it may sense, it may see you, but if you do this respectful manner, then it in turn ensures that it's not going to pick on you and create situations where you're hopefully lost. But in other places, though, apparently these Tikbalangs are considered benevolent guardians, and they're supposed to be there in the forest specifically because they are in turn protecting large areas or places that have, I guess, sacred trees, very large trees of some sort. Those that are in turn, I guess, parts of the forest or have been parts of the forest for a long, long time. And so that's why these Tikbalangs seem to be within those areas, very protective of them. Another way to apparently know that something is happening with a Tikbalang is the common belief there in the Philippines that if it's a very sunny day, bright, sunny, just no clouds, absolutely just beautiful weather, and all of a sudden it starts raining out of the blue, then the common mythology there in the Philippines is that a Tikbalang is getting married, or something else is happening with the Tikbalang that's important, because they are the ones, I guess, that can create this strange phenomena, almost like an omen of some sort. Some other interesting things associated with this Tikbalang is the idea that, again, its main feature is this humanoid, bony-like structure, but with the head of the horse. But as I was mentioning earlier, it can apparently transform into other things. In this case, it can transform into an actual human. So it can meld into human territories, any type of nearby towns, villages, whatever is the case, and just mingle with the crowds. And if that's not enough, apparently this creature can also outright turn invisible, just like a predator of some sort. Like, in essence, it can just turn absolutely invisible, and then there they are, just wandering around other parts of the town, who knows where, and you would have no idea, because in essence this Tikbalang would be completely invisible. But for the most part, if you wanted to truly know where the realm of a Tikbalang is, as I was mentioning, it's all about it being associated with those mountains and forests of the Philippines. If you're looking for very specific spots, though, those are the ones where those places in the forest that are very dark, very sparsely populated, lots of overgrown foliage, those are the places within the forest that apparently house these Tikbalang. So, you know how some parts of forest there's very open, sunny type areas, places where there's lots of place to walk through, and then there's others where it's just really condensed, very dark because of the extreme amount of foliage. Those are the places, though, that they seem to abide by. If you wanted to stretch things out a little bit further, apparently the Tikbalangs, according to mythology, they also love being under bridges. I don't know if it's necessarily like those wooden bridges found within forests that people build, or more along the lines of, let's say, of highway bridges. Who knows? There's not much detail associated with it. Or bamboo and banana groves is yet another thing too. One last thing with these Tikbalangs, they have some these spines on the back of their mane. And if you wanted to try to capture a Tikbalang and make it its servant, like make him or her the servant to you, you can find these Tikbalangs with these sharp spines in their manes. If you can pick one of them off of the mane itself, then that in turn converts the Tikbalang into a servant. No idea though how essentially or how risky or how dangerous it is to do so. Presumably it would be pretty bad considering, I guess, the power that these things have. But if you're somehow able to pick one of those spines from its mane, then you in turn have done something like almost like an Achilles heel. You're able to essentially make it your actual servant. So now one less interesting thing associated with these Tikbalangs. But that's it. That's pretty much all the information tied to these very unique creatures. Yet again, another mysterious cryptid of some sort. They're emanating from the Philippines. So if anyone has any more info, any other items that they might know of, anybody traveled to the Philippines, have heard of this cryptid or some of the other stories or tales tied to it, please post those comments below. That would be really, really awesome to share with everyone. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always. Take care.